one leading American CEO gave the lunch talk, very rich man, powerful company, and he talked about how we should have cooperation rather than conflict with China. He didn't say anything wrong. He didn't say anything very dramatic. So in the Q&A period, I stood up and I said, that's fine, thank you for these words, but instead of whispering them in a group like this, or maybe even whispering them in the White House, why don't you, as business leaders, tell the truth to the American people? That we don't need a trade war with China, that China's not the enemy. Why don't you say that? And then I said, because I'm a professor, so I can say these things, that our president is completely ignorant of all economics, which he is, and he blames our trade deficit on others, but our trade deficit comes because we keep cutting taxes, so we spend more than our income. We run big deficits, and that's our fault, not somebody else's fault. And why don't you say that? Well, they got very nervous because you're not supposed to say these impolite things in public. In other words, the truth. So the moderator quickly laughed and said, well, I'm sure that was a rhetorical question. Thank you very much. This session is over. So they finished the lunch. I wasn't too happy about that because it wasn't quite a rhetorical question. And then the man came up to me, not mad at all, and you know what he said to me? He said, Jeff, you know, it's probably dementia, actually, because I'm seeing a lot of people, talking to a lot of people. Probably, it could well be Trump has Alzheimer's.
Oh.
Okay, could well be. But why tell me? Why not explain that this is an issue that we face in this country? You know why? Because they're afraid that maybe their corporate this and that will be a little bit damaged if they tell the truth. We have a bully, and we don't have almost anybody speaking up in this country. And I know the people on Wall Street. And Sonia can testify, once a year I'm invited to a dinner of gazillionaires. And I always am kind of the sorry black sheep of the event, because, you know, the skunk at the party. Because at some point after an hour and a half of gleeful, self-adulatory remarks about how much money they're all making, I say something like, well, our city's going to be underwater if we don't do something else because of rising sea level. And they all look at each other and say, how did this guy get into this dinner? And so it's a really good question. How do we have a grown-up discussion in this country? And how do we have our leaders, our business leaders who are powerful, tell the truth? They're not telling the truth right now. I know them personally. I've been dealing with them for decades. And we're not in an honest way in our discussions.